Hey everybody, it's David Bloom with Next TMT. I'm here with my co-founder, Daniel Frankel, and Matthew Henick, the SVP of Ventura, the hip new operating system coming from the big independent advertising giant, the Trade Desk. Matthew, I think it's probably a good place to start. Is like, why another TVOS now? What are you guys bringing to the party?
Sure. As you mentioned, being part of the trade desk gives us a really unique perspective on how the money flows through the CTV ecosystem. And so when we looked at starting with the television manufacturers and retailers all the way to users, we saw some inefficiencies in terms of how the money moved from partner to partner, and that ultimately leads to a ton of conflict of interest commercially and a subpar user experience. So we went segment by segment. We started with the OEMs and the retailers of television. That is an incredibly tough business, right? Very low margin, sometimes a loss leader in certain cases. And so what we've seen over the past few years is in order to turn, the selling of a television, again, whether you made it or you just retail it, into more than a one-time revenue opportunity every 5.5, 6 years, everyone is moving into content and ads, which is our specialty. And so the way that you do that, if you're an OEM, you really have two choices that are both pretty difficult. Either one, you have to create your own OS in order to have leverage to build a content and an ads business. And we're seeing that obviously with Samsung and LG and others. Or you have to go out and find a third-party OS, three of which are, owned by the three of the most successful companies in the history of capitalism in Apple, Amazon, and Google. And you're basically being asked in exchange for possibly a bounty, but most likely just getting a free OS to mortgage your customer relationships and your business to them.
Go wrong.
Yeah, no. History is filled with a lot of examples of that just being great for the media industry.
Great for the media industry, is falling apart. Yeah. So the timing is interesting here. I mean, first of all, I guess I am shocked to hear that there might be inefficiencies, possible corruption, other issues, double dealing, et cetera, in the advertising business.
Mm-hmm.
It has never been known for that ever before, right?
Always straight and on the straight and narrow.
Right on the straight and narrow. So how does Ventura remove some of those issues? How do you clean up this Wild West?
Right. So,
we're going to call you sheriff for that.
I'll earn the badge. But, there's two elements to it. There's the dollars flowing, as we were talking about, from OEMs to publishers to advertisers to users ultimately. But specifically, as CTV has finally admitted pervasively that advertising is an important monetization tool for it, we've seen our portion of our dollars that we're stewarding on behalf of our clients and agency partners to CTV. And so what we want to make sure is that we can bid on their behalf with confidence. And that requires knowing more data about who's watching and knowing more data about what show or what movie is being shown. And so, ad tech and real-time bidding is an incredibly complex system. The Trade Desk broadly across the internet, we look at over 17 million ad opportunities a second. And then we decide what percentage of those we want to bid on, which is a low single-digit percentage. And then we win a low single-digit percentage of that, based on what we're bidding on. We would be able to bid higher, which would benefit both our advertising clients and our publishers if there was more transparency to that supply chain.
You're reducing some of the friction in a system that has a lot of players, middlemen, right?
Yeah.
Part of the bid.
Yeah, I mean, we're happy to have anyone to participate as long as they're providing value, and then the publisher can decide whether to take that bid and the advertiser can decide whether that was good for their business. But right now, the average CTV publisher could have, for one single ad unit, 140 different paths that go out into the world. We see many of them, and sometimes we can't even tell if they're the same one because of how obscure and opaque they are. And that's partly because there's a lot of players who are trying to take advantage of the fact that this is happening so fast, but also, publishers are being asked to pay taxes to their platforms, right? Both obviously on subscription and transaction, but also on the ad side too. And that can take the place of a revenue share where you're just, picking some pennies of every dollar over, or in a lot of cases, the OSs are asking for inventory shares because they want to sell that inventory. And so the publishers very smartly and understandably are saying, yeah, you can have 10% of our inventory, but you can't say it's ours. right? And you have to bundle it with 4 other CTV publishers, and you could call it premium CTV, and you can't tell them what percentage of the advertising buy landed there, because the publishers don't want to compete with the platforms to sell their own stuff. They also don't want to compete with the platforms that have their own content service. So there's just a lot of distrust there. Because we have our core business that has always been built on objectivity, we need to always look our advertising clients in the eye and say, we're putting your dollars in the best place for your business. We have no skin in the game beyond that. They're able to trust us to build a little bit more transparency in that ad ecosystem.
It's a alluring proposition, no doubt. But with this point, the TVOS business is so competitive and fragmented. What gives you confidence that you can end off?
Yeah, sure.
Just like you.
Well, it's again looking at each one of those segments, but in order, right? We live or die by distribution, right? And so when we look at OEMs, retailers, and satellite and cable operators, we're able to provide them, number one, a better commercial prospect. They're able to build ad businesses without handing over their customer relationships. If you're a retailer, you're not putting the world's largest, most aggressive e-commerce retailer in all of your customers' homes. And second, we built our tech stack to be very customizable, so that if you want to bring your brand to the UI, we're cool with that. If you want the Ventura name to be second or even non-existent, we're fine with that too. And so we want the OEMs, the retailers, and the operators to feel like this is a true extension of their business, which they're not really getting that option from many of the other players in market.
I think that one of the things that's interesting about your timing is that we're hearing, particularly you're here at the Stream TV show, and a lot of the conversation has been, how much do you get in bed with YouTube, with your premium content? And also, if you are a brand, you need to think of yourself as a publisher, as the equivalent of a media company. You need to be there, and then you need to figure out how you keep your customers, how you keep your money as much as possible. So is that the opportunity that's the biggest in front of you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to sort of separate out where you should distribute your content broadly, right? And my background is mainly in content publishing, and I worked at Facebook as well. So I know that world, and I know the benefit of trying to build and grab an audience on those platforms, but we also know the pitfalls are you don't own them, you can't really contact them again. And so you should be everywhere, but you always need to have a place where you can really own that audience and own that relationship. And so when I even think about the difference between YouTube and Google TV, that's where that shows up. Most media companies should be publishing to YouTube, but they probably shouldn't be trusting Google TV to the extent that they maybe are in terms of maintaining that customer relationship for their advertisers and with their users. Google TV is probably the 200th most important product at Google. And so when YouTube comes into a meeting with them and asks them to change something for their benefit, they're going to do it. If you go to Google TV, if you power it on, probably half of the 6 carousel units are going to be ads for YouTube, Play Store, and YouTube TV. And then maybe they'll start promoting something from Disney or Paramount or somebody else.
One of the things I find interesting is your growing realization that data is everything. And how is Ventura's approach going to generate the data and help enable these guys to really take the chance? I think because that's the key. It's like you've got all this data, now what? Right?
Yeah, and which part is important, which part isn't. Data is everything, but it's also too much sometimes. The benefit we have there and the confidence to move in this direction is based on our core business. So we have this product UID2, which is an anonymized identity currency that is pervasive in CTV. Most of the big media companies use it, and
that's a step beyond the original UID, but really is everywhere for every bit of content, right?
Yeah, well, it's been really rewarding that every big media company in the US and mainly globally is like, we see the value of this. We see the value for privacy. We also see the value that we and other folks are able to bid with more confidence and at higher prices. So it actually shows that UID2 tag tokens are actually worth more in the advertising ecosystem. So when we work with publishers, we're asking them to bring that environment onto Ventura, and then to commitments around how their auctions work so that they're more transparent for everyone. We're not asking for the trade desk to be the sole demand source for what they're doing. We want them to bring every demand source that they could possibly want. We just all want to be competing with the same data and on a level playing field.
So I think that's good.
All right. So what's the time frame to roll out this Ventura highway?
Yeah. The interesting thing, I think the moment that we're in, which is, even it's making the uncertainty in the OEM and retailer space even greater than it was even a few months ago, right? And so based on how we want to be partners with the OEMs to try and help stabilize and build a more sustainable business, I have to defer to them and when they think they're going to be able to make and stock televisions on shelves. So we're ready. As I mentioned, the software is flexible and can fit any type of timeline, any type of system on a chip, any type of memory envelope that we need. But I have to rely on them to tell you when they're going to be on shelves.
Good to know. And obviously, there are a few questions out there with international trade that complicate some things that are well beyond your control. But you guys are ready to go. It's like, yeah, terrific. Well, I'm David Bloom with NextTMG and my partner, Daniel Frankel. We're here with Matthew Henick, the SVP of Ventura, the new TV OS coming from the trade desk. It's its own thing within the bigger trade desk. It's its own corner of the desk, as it were.
Yeah, so we have our own little desk.
You have your own little desk, and it's a really nice desk, I'm guessing. It sounds like it's going to be a really interesting project. Good luck on this, and it's a pleasure talking with you.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
We'll edit that part out.